Here we are again with another alteration. This is a very large kilt. Um, it's good quality cloth. What I'm looking for, it's got a proper kilting selvage rather than a tuck selvage. And having said that, I'm going to have to make a kilt with a tuck selvage. And in that later, if I haven't explained in an earlier video, I'm pretty sure I have. I believe that tuck selvages aren't all created equal. I'm gonna have to make a kilt in a tuck selvage and basically test it to destruction to see, because the received wisdom, as it were, the attitude amongst the higher class kilt makers, is that tuck selvage isn't quite right. So, but anyhow, we've got a proper kilting selvage, and this fellow has become a little less prominent. He was, I think this is 56 waist. Let's take a look. And remember my video about how will that eBay kilt fit you? I'm going to measure in that. So we've got, the pleats are 27 inches. Okay, it's 56 inches at the waist. He's dropped a bit. His waist and his hip are now 51 inches. Now, because he's slimmed down a little bit, that also affects the length of the kilt. The kilt, as right now, is 24 3/4. When I measured him, his new kilt length is 22. And the reason for that is, it's almost, you think of a triangle. We have the hypotenuse, the hypotenuse and the two angles. When one is of a fuller habit, particularly with male pattern fat distribution, when we're measuring, the cloth is basically taking the scenic route down to the bottom. Well, they're a little more slender, and we've shortened that angle, and that is why, shortened that distance because of a flatter angle, and that's why the kilt is going to need to be shortened. So, looking at this is, I think it's good value for its money. This, what we have is a kilt, and I've seen these elsewhere that they're machine made, which is fine. They haven't been cut out at the back at all, and there's no canvas here at all. The lining is quite rudimentary, as we can see. It fits where it touches. It's been sewn with a machine on the top, and again, where the loops are attached to the bottom. And again, my attitude towards the loops, this is only for the sporn strap. This isn't for the waist belt, just the sporn strap. And these are only really required when we have somebody with the two extremes of a figure. We have the extremely slender people that look like an old-fashioned clothes peg. They're skeletal, let's say. No arse to speak of, as it were. And we have the other end of the spectrum, where people are, shall we say, the important figure, where they don't have a waist so much as they have an equator. Not judging. So, because frankly, the fuller figure can be more magisterial and majestic, frankly, when properly tailored, than the skinny minis. Not judging either. So in any case, so it's got the loops. The loops are holding it on here, but there's no canvas. And fortunately for this, it hasn't been cut out at all. So looking at this, now the one thing there's two things I don't like. This buckle has been placed far too close to the buttonhole, because it should be back about an inch, because where it is now, you see when that strap comes through, when you pull it tight, you're going to get a bulge here, because this needs to be about an inch back. This needs to be about here, so you get an uninterrupted, a clean run, shall we say, for the strap coming through. So I'm going to shorten this kilt to the white line, and now my white chalk mark. Now my personal shorthand these days, which I seem to have evolved and then stopped and thought about it, is, and this isn't a universal thing. This is just something I've started doing recently. For me, a white chalk mark means I'm cutting to that line. A yellow chalk mark means I'm sewing or measuring to that line. So I'm going to reduce it. Well, I'm going to strip it down. I'm going to take off the top band. We're going to reuse it. For whatever stupid reason, I didn't hand his kilt pin back to him. So I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to pin it to a tag with his name and his details, so that doesn't get lost. But I'm going to take the canvas out. I'm going to reuse the straps. They're not beautiful, but they're not so shabby that I need to replace them, right? Keep the straps. I'm going to rip it down to the new height. Now, the thing is about the measuring, because he's 51 at the waist and he's also 51 at the hip. So we're essentially a cylindrical figure, at least as far as the numbers are concerned. And this is why now I'll take a picture of the customer in shirt and trousers, front, rear, either side, because we call it, instead of what we call rock of eye, where you have the mental picture of the person, I still do, but I'm referring to a photographic note, because the short pen beats the long memory, or in this case, the short JPEG beats the long memory. Because even though the numbers indicate that the person is parallel, he's not in fact. And we do need an A-line. We do need a subtle difference in width between the waist and the hip, both in the pleats and in the apron. But I'm not going to pull these pleats absolutely apart. I'm going to, well, what I'm going to do, because when I measure this, if I go with, at present, we have 27 inches of the pleats. That would give us an apron of 24 inches. Now, in the fuller figure, we want the apron to be at least 50% at the waist and the hip. So to bring that about, I'm going to rob a pleat from either side, and you can see the yellow line on either side. Because they haven't been cut out, right? By unpicking this seam and this seam, I'm going to reduce the apron, the measurement across the back at the waist is going to be reduced to 25, which means we're going to have 25 inches on the apron. So I beg your pardon, 25 inches on the pleats, 26 on the apron, and that's going to produce an attractive and effective balance between pleats and apron. And in any case, no matter what the build of the individual is, we don't want the apron to be any smaller than the horns of the pelvis, because we get down to there and we're into tartan skirt country, and it's not an attractive look on the male figure, at least in my opinion. So there we go. Apron off, sorry, I beg pardon, top band off, canvas out, straps and buckles salvaged, reduced in height, and this, by removing this much material, we're going to have the spare material, so that when I make up the buckle tabs, which are now going to be down here, using the spare material, I can make the buckle tab to match the background, because again, attention to detail. So one other thing I don't like, but again, you know, within the cost of this kilt, this is not to be unexpected, but it's been joined up with two pieces of cloth, and we can see what I do admire is they've marked it at the right spot, so that they're preserving preserving the pattern. It's not interrupted either by blowing it out or contracting it. But what I don't like is that they've made it fully visible from the inside. Now, granted, that's a minor thing, and granted, I'm in a different part of the market than they are, but this annoys me. Unfortunately, I don't think I can correct it, because correcting it would involve completely disassembling the kilt, completely pressing it flat, and then recalculating the spot for the seam to occur so that it was hidden behind pleat. We didn't discuss that. I'm not going to do it without payment, and I'm not going to go back to him and say, because at this, it's really, strictly speaking, with a kilt of this quality, it's really not that necessary. And if it doesn't bug him, I'm not going to let it bug me. So there we go. I've already explained what I'm going to do. I've already explained the positives and negatives. I think I've pretty much summed up there. So I'm gonna get stuck in on this, and I'll leave you to go about your day. Take care, and thank you.